Charlotte Griffiths. Guys, thanks
Hi
very much
there.
for being with us, giving up some of your Sunday. We do appreciate it. Let's crack straight on. Start with a Mail on Sunday. Charlotte, why don't you kick us off your paper, as there's pressure on Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
More pressure on Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Starmer has now piled on. Starmer is saying, you know, he needs to speak to the US Congress about what he knows about Jeffrey Epstein. This is a sort of obvious point. They've been calling for it, for several weeks. They gave him a 2-week window. He didn't. He's obviously not done it. He's not flown over to the States. He's not done a Zoom. He's been in hiding. But what I find quite interesting is that Starmer is now getting involved. It's quite unusual,
He's doing
really.
it in a sort of kind of loose way, isn't it? He's saying, I don't comment on individual cases, but anyone who has any evidence should put it forward. And the implication is that applies to someone like Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
Yeah, but I mean, it's embarrassing when the Prime Minister is actually making a comment. And you know what it's really about, given that Prince Andrew's more or less in hiding. I mean, he left the house to go riding the other day, but other than that, he's more or less locked himself in the house, burying his head in the sand, and it's obviously not a good look, and he's no longer a prince.
Yeah, well, he ignored the request, let's call it a request from Congress to give evidence, and that just passed without comment, which is why we're hearing now from the Prime Minister about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's on the front of the Telegraph.
Yeah, it's on the front of the Telegraph as well. And, you know, you're right to say that it isn't that the Prime Minister sort of said, absolutely come out of hiding Mr Mountbatten and give your evidence, but he did say, look, a general principle I've always held, and obviously Keir Starmer's a former lawyer, is that anyone with relevant information in relation to these kind of cases should give the evidence to those who need it. And I think there is a brewing confidence now that he's had his title stripped, that actually they can be a bit punchier about this and they can follow behind public opinion.
You also wonder, given that President Trump has now signalled the release of the Epstein files, which are expected to happen within 30 days, I think, of him signing that order, that you wonder whether that puts more pressure on him as well. He must be wondering what's in those files that regards him.
And it's like, you know, you'd want to get ahead of it, I think, because clearly there's going to be far more scrutiny about the people who were hanging around Epstein as these files come out. It's not going to go away. And I think it would be a much better look to come out of your own accord at this point than to continue having the pressure applied by the British press and the government and voters.
I suppose he came out of his own accord and did a Newsnight interview, which did not go so well.
No.
So maybe actually not.
Quiet.
But he does need to move on from this somehow, and actually by addressing it, he can start the long process of moving on.
Charlotte, take us to the Sunday Mirror next. And this is one of, predictably, a number of papers that are focusing on the budget.
Yes.
Tell us about their Rachel Rees exclusive, as they're calling it.
Well, I mean, you used the word exclusive. I find Rachel's interview in the Mirror quite woolly. You know, I know she's done a lot of kite flyers, but you don't really need to do a kite flyer to say, I'll get a grip on the cost of living. You know, actually, I feel like, in my opinion, she should have been doing this for a long time. And it's quite a lot of rhetoric and not a lot of actual sort of promising to do anything specific. And, yeah, so that's why I flagged it, actually.
Wait until the budget to actually tell the details? Is that the point? That's why it's a bit...
I suppose so. The problem is there's been such a big build-up to this budget. It's taken so long to get here that a front-page exclusive in the Sunday Mirror 3 days before the budget, it's not quite enough at this point, I think. And she's caused chaos with all these kite flyers and delays to the actual budget.
She had an interview in the Times yesterday as well, didn't she? And also, we've obviously got that announcement about the freezing of rail fares as well, which is pre-budgetary.
Yes, I mean, there's some things in here that will help voters. So rail fares being frozen for the first time in 30 years. There's also expected that some of the sort of green levies will be removed from energy bills, which might help. But all of these are just small things. And actually, if you're talking about extending the freeze on income tax thresholds, I mean, that is going to be less money in people's pocket. People are going to feel that. And I think ultimately, you're talking about all this budget speculation and how damaging that is. It's not entirely the fault of the government and the Chancellor. I mean, we all in the media have a role to play in speculating and wanting to know what's going to happen. And then you have this kind of terrible dance where the bond markets panic and the media gets on it, and then the Chancellor comes out and says things and the Treasury fly kites. And it just creates this massive uncertainty for months. And when you're talking about voters struggling with the cost of living, I just think it's entirely unhelpful. I really do. I think there is an argument that actually we shouldn't have these fiscal events that are so so standalone that maybe we should look at monetary policy throughout the year, because all this uncertainty, I think, has been very, very difficult for voters and the markets as well.
It builds up to one day where everyone is waiting. I mean, there's all these reports of people taking their money out of the country, people being really concerned. The language is interesting, though, that the Mirror picked up on. Talks about working families being front of mind, and it echoes what she said previously, and the Prime Minister has said previously, and to Beth in his interview just the other day, talking about that feeling of knowing, you know, that you sit around the kitchen table, you don't have enough money in a family. I think they're going to really try and lean into that. But with all that we've seen in the past couple of weeks and let's say months, it's really hard to see how the arguments can be made for a budget that has, some would say, had fallen apart before it's been delivered.
And also, if you're talking about reducing energy bill prices, they're already high, you know. If you're just stopping them from getting higher, voters aren't going to necessarily thank you for that, unfortunately.
Let's move on to the Sunday Times. Their main story focuses on something that's been widely talked about, scrapping the two-child benefit cap. But the caveat there is that they're saying that she's pledging reform as well.
Yes, so there is going to be a welfare overhaul, and we know this. So there was obviously the big rebellion a few months ago, and the decision was made that there would be this Stephen Timms-led review into welfare. That is going to conclude, and Rachel Reeves has said there's still going to be reform to the welfare system. The leadership still think that the bill is too high, but they're hoping to offset some of the potential rebellion from backbenchers by lifting the two-child benefit cap, which will cost $3 billion, and they argue will bring hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty kind of almost immediately, which will be very widely received. It's something that's been campaigned for a long time. We know some Labour MPs lost the whip over this. Will it be enough to do the kind of wide-reaching welfare reform that they tried to do in the first place? I suspect probably not. But the thing about the Timms review, which did placate backbench MPs, is that it will be done with disability campaign groups. So hopefully if there is more of that feed-in and the feed-in at backbenchers, you might see a slightly more conciliatory tone struck between backbenchers and the leadership.
Potentially, but I wonder, Charlotte, if this speaks to what Zoe was saying earlier. I mean, we've kind of known that they were going to do this in the budget anyway for, I will say, months, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps if they'd have done, when they finally do it, are they going to get the political credit that they feel like they deserve from it?
Yeah, I do think they will, actually. I think people have been, those who are against it have been complaining and complaining and complaining. There's been an eruption online this morning, people going, this is ridiculous, I haven't had my third child because I'm sensible. It's this idea that people who aren't sensible about the number of children they have, are benefiting from this. And that narrative has just been allowed to play out and play out. And if you're Rachel Reeves and you want to dispel that, the worst thing she could do is to have dragged this out for so long.
Let's move on to another budget-related story regarding business, Charlotte. This is in the Sunday Telegraph, isn't it? Business owners flee before budget doom is their headline.
Yes, so last year there were 325 business owners who left the country, and this year it's 571. Company directors, this is, and there's another number that 4,300 people moved their business, and that moved to 6,100. So basically, in the run-up to the exodus, again, it's this, to the budget, again, it's this idea that there's been such a long time, and people they're just going to the UAE, Spain in some cases, and I read this, I've been reading about this for months, as you probably have, but I've started to see it in real life. I really have started. I now know 5 families who've gone to the UAE, gone to Dubai, and it really is happening. And there's a feeling here that there's not enough opportunity, and over there, people are just, I hate to say it, just moving and shaking. There's that kind of feeling there that London, I feel, used to have. I actually was there last week visiting some of my friends that had moved there, and there was a different atmosphere, and there's this feeling you can get ahead there.
Tell us a little bit more about the motivation. You say that they feel they have more opportunities there, or they're worried about paying tax here, or
Yeah, so a lot of the coverage is just about paying tax here and Rachel Reeves and doom and gloom, but actually there just feels over there's an atmosphere of things are happening, and I think partly it's because so many business owners have moved over there to escape tax and whatever else. But it just reminds me of London 10 years ago. Things are happening.
So, what do you think? Do you think that's...
Well, look, if you're a non-dom, you're not paying your tax here anyway. So go. We're not taking advantage of the money you have anyway. I think there is a lot of whipping up of this. I think there is a belief that people are leaving in droves. I don't believe that's true. I think a lot of people actually do see that this country needs investment, and they do see that when there is investment there is potential for growing their business. But look, you know, if you want to go and take your money with you, then that is, in my opinion, quite a selfish, unpatriotic decision. You know.
So that's what you really think?
Yeah, if you're not paying your tax, then bye.
It is anecdotal, though, but it has come across sort of my friendship group that people have decided that they're going to go. And it's not just, I mean, I don't have any business owners in my friendship group. People with really normal jobs, teachers, people who work in the medical profession have decided that it's just not working out for them here.
But I think a lot of that is what happens when you have a government that is presiding over this country for the best part of 15 years, not investing, not fixing the roof while the sun shines. And then you have all these infrastructure issues, all these public sector issues, and people just see a country that is a bit dilapidated. But it's up to all of us to
Can this government bring that back?
Well,
that sense of hope?
We'll see.
Andrew Griffiths says not. He says it's a hostile environment for business owners in the UK at the moment.
Zach Polanski's making a pitch to take over. He's done an interview in The Observer. Talk us through what his lines are from this.
Yeah, so lots of interesting stuff here. We know that Zach Polanski has given a big boost to the Greens over the past few months since he won the leadership. So last week, YouGov put them on 17%, which is just 2 points behind Labour. And among young people, they're the most popular party, which is not particularly surprising, as they tend to be more progressive. He's been compared to Zohran Mamdani, who was the recently elected mayor of New York. What is interesting in this interview is how Polanski is focusing the Greens' messaging more on this idea of redistribution and the cost of living, rather than particularly green politics. And, you know, there's a suggestion that maybe that isn't as popular to voters as the cost of living. And Zach Polanski alludes to that. He says at the moment people care about the food on the table and heating their homes. He says that they're all linked to the climate crisis, that the Greens still have that as part of their messaging. But I think he sees that getting into inequality and the cost of living is the key thing.
Yeah.
What do you make of it, Charlotte?
Well, I think this interview is that he's so owning his wokeness. He's so authentic. He speaks so clearly. He's not trying to be anything other than he is. He says here, I love my smile, being gay and being Jewish, so people will really need to find some other way to hurt me.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of Gen Z thing, dare I say it, of just owning who you really are and not fake and not pretending to be someone else.
People love authenticity, so let's see what... I want to find out about those Jaffa cakes as well, but we'll do that next hour, I think.
We're out of time. See you next hour. Thank you.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in